Good afternoon, Abbotsford residents. I'm Mr. Pelican. Yesterday I did a video showing you the inner circle. I'm running for mayor. I'm bringing the RCMP into Abbotsford on what took place in our city in between our election. But not only that, Henry Brown was so rich and so powerful in Abbotsford, he got the police chief to cover his hit and run. Then he used the manipulation of the Abbotsford News and city councils and city officials to block an election. I'm here today on the world stage because of Henry's own son showing what his dad was doing. But Henry had Ed Fast and Mike DeYoung. But he took ownership of Abbotsford Police. Yesterday I did a video showing you that Henry went into the city to set up the official community plan for him and his friends to gain. Darren Brown showed me how Ron Funk was getting the jobs, how Henry used city councillors called Abbotsford First and Ross Siemens to block every developer so they could control the development process in Abbotsford. Darren Brown showed me that's why Abbotsford wasn't succeeding Chilliwack in their growth. Then Henry started lobbying all kinds of jobs in front of the city, and he stepped off his conflict if you go back through the city archives. Them jobs are being fast-tracked. When I ran for mayor, Andy Sidhu, the chancellor of UFE, with Dave Sidhu, his son, used UFE to call me and threaten me that the RCMP were there and I wasn't allowed on UFE's property. And that if I came on UFE, they were. Andy Sidhu walked up to my table where all my mayor stuff was put out and threw it in the garbage can with his son, Dave Sidhu. Let me show you what was in report. This piece of property that I stand on is Andy Sidhu's property on Tracy Road. On Tracy Road, here it is. In return for Andy Sidhu and Dave Sidhu to help load Ross Siemens for Henry Braun, in return, bribery, back pay, you could call it, or whatever you could call it, Henry Brown fast-tracked with city officials, and there was no objection, Andy Sidhu's piece of property be sold and to go to a developer very quickly. There's the excavators and there's that sitting on this ag land by the airport right beside King Haven on Tracy Road. Dave Sidhu and Andy Sidhu, his dad, owned this. And in return for loading Ross Siemens to help Henry Braun, this was considered how Henry was going to pay back Dave Sidhu. It's not that right, Andy Sidhu. Darren Brown warned me of that. He warned me that Andy Sidhu was going to block me at UFE because they talked about it in the city on the 5th floor, Henry did with Dave Sidhu. And he said, I'll get my dad to do that. Darren Brown warned me about that. But Darren Brown warned me about Andy Sidhu being rewarded criminally with Dave Sidhu and the developer to buy his piece of property here on Tracy Road and that nobody would object to it. So there's lots of people been trying on ag land to get ag processing, and you could saw it. I did a video of the cannery of Joe trying to get a bigger cannery, and he was blocked, purposely blocked, because he wasn't in Henry's inner circle with Henry and Abbotsford First. But then they go along and they do this. This is insider trading. This is preferential treatment. But this is why Henry controlled the Abbotsford Police, to halt all these investigations and everything. But this is why Andy Sidhu used the UFE as chancellor to halt me and block me. The RCMP admission, said Mr. Pelican, let him commence the act. Let him commence the act of blocking you at UFE so we know that Dave Sidhu was purposely loading Ross Siemens in return to get his land sold of his dad's so they could make money, and that the city councillors called Abbotsford First would help with Dave Lowens to rush that through for Ross Siemens. Ross Siemens, I want your dad to hear this. I'm going after criminal convictions. I'm going after preferential treatment. I'm going after what the city did to collaborate racketeer. I'm coming after that. So I want to send you and Dave Sidhu a special message, Ross Siemens. Henry's driving you. Henry's telling you, listen to me very closely. I'll give you some advice. This is on the world stage for every mayor and every RCMP and everybody to see. No Abbotsford Police are going to save this one. You could see the political ring is destroyed in Abbotsford, Ross Siemens and Dave Sidhu. You could see Henry lost Ed Fast. He can't do damage control. You could see Henry's trying to load Mike DeYoung, failed. You could see Henry's stuff with Vicky Hopes, failed. You could see Henry's stuff with Craig Toes when he offered to bribe me. We'll run Ross this and in 4 years we'll help you, Mr. Pelican. This is using city. This is frauding Abbotsford taxpayers, and it was blocking people that put money forward like Joe and all these other farmers to do processing plants, and Henry blocked it, stole their ideas, and he went here. Dave Sidhu's property as a sitting councillor of his dad's should never have been sold and fast-tracked. It was. It meant no resistance in the city by city councillors or nothing. And the mayor, Ross Siemens, owed Dave Sidhu. Ain't that true, Ross Siemens? You could see how scared Ross Siemens is. You could see how scared Dave Lowens is. You could see them all. I'm going for criminal convictions, Abbotsford residents. On the extortion, this was an inner ring. Henry went in and set up the official community plan. Then he had to load Ross. So unless you were in his group, he could gain. I expect that the Abbotsford City would tell Ross Siemens, you can already get that excavator and that job site down. I'm going after full criminal convictions. This is what Martha Stewart's did, inside trader. Ross Siemens, I'm going to come after your gas station, your assets, and everything that you, your dad, and your family own, because I'm going to tell you, this is Abbotsford residents that are pushing on me. They want these convictions. They want the RCMP in. They want to know how this punk Dave Sidhu was not charged for doing what he did. Dave Sidhu went down on his hands for Ross Siemens and pulled illegal criminal acts in the election to load, and this was his payback. Then they fast-tracked this to the developers quickly. Then they fast-tracked the permits in the city like they do a Ron Funk. Henry thought he was this town. Henry stopped and blocked many developers. Darren Brown showed me when he said, my dad's going to screw the Augustine billionaire over. He'll have council slam it down. My dad's going to screw everything over. My dad was screwing everybody over. His dad snuck into Cooper's farm. His dad, Darren Brown's dad, was knowing it was coming off the rails. He knows he's facing jail. He got in his Alexis car on another one of his scams, proceeded to leave the Abbotsford City, came right at me, stepped on the gas, sent me flying, injured me, sent me to the hospital. And Abbotsford police that were under his command, using their name and their company, went and covered it. So I'm going to tell you, Chief Watts, if you go look and you go to land titles, Chief Watts, I want you to hear this, and you go to land titles and you pull who owned this piece of property, Andy Sidhu did. And you go look who his son is, Dave Sidhu. Then you go look at Marcus Dalvis, who ran Abbotsford first, and who did the criminal acts to load Ross Siemens at UFB, Andy Sidhu. And who helped him, Dave Sidhu. This is what the RCMP know when you do this kind of stuff into democracy. So now, I'm going to tell you, great man like Bruce Bannon, great man like Mo Gill, when Mo Gill said there was smoke, there was fire, knew that this was against Abbotsford residents. Henry saw their ideas. Henry saw that they put money forward and were just planning. He used his political connections. Then he used his ties, and he went and did this. Dave Sidhu's land and Andy Sidhu's land should have never been fast-tracked or sold to a developer like this. This is insider trading. It's racketeering. But now, Abbotsford residents, it calls for you to lean on your MLAs, Bruce Bannon, Corky Neufeld, and Rianne Gaspard. Henry doesn't own them. Henry doesn't control them. Henry slammed Bruce Bannon in scandals. He slammed Mo Gill because Mo Gill knew that Mo Gill was, if he was a counselor, he'd be telling Dave Sidhu, this is insider trading, Dave. You got this job for your dad in order through Ross Siemens to block that election. Mrs. Siemens, I want you to hear what your son did. Your son, Ross Siemens, frauded an election to gain wealth for Henry Brown. How Henry owned him, I don't know. I have no idea. That's between Ross and his dad and Henry Brown. Ross Siemens went even as far as telling me I'd be proud to have Henry as my dad. Henry Brown, Ross Siemens concoct these scams. Ross Siemens was a part of them jobs that them houses went down. Ross Siemens was a part knowing that Henry was using the Abbotsford police and council that he controlled in this city to threaten. But Ross Siemens was a part of covering Henry's attempted murder. Ross Siemens knew what he was doing when he was frauding the elections. Every mayor that had through the Fraser Valley are now backing and saying insider trading. Abbotsford needs the RCMP. My goal to run for Abbotsford's mayor is to bring the RCMP in. Why? Why do I want the RCMP? They'll go after Dave's financials. They'll go after Andy Sidhu's financials. They'll go after Ross Siemens. When you're doing this kind of behavior, it's not for the better of Abbotsford. It's wealth. It's kickbacks and it's wealth, the same as Henry was moving job sites. Henry Brown was the mastermind behind this old game. Henry Brown was the ringleader. Henry Brown was the man that set it all up. Henry Brown stood to gain millions of dollars. Unless you joined Henry Brown's ring or you bent down and kissed Henry Brown's ass, you weren't going to get in. I want to make something clear to Vicky Hopes. Vicky Hopes, Abbotsford newspaper, when Darren Brown said that Henry Brown controlled, financed you, and ran you, it was a given. Do you not think that the Abbotsford newspaper should be putting this right on the front of the page, that the Councillor Mogel was right? Where there was smoke, there was fire. He meant that Henry was fast-tracking stuff through inner-city meetings, and you knew that, and so did I. Ross Siemens, this is what you owed Dave Sidhu, and it wasn't Mr. Pelican again. This was Darren Brown said, Ross Siemens has got to pay that shitbox Dave Sidhu and Andy Sidhu back for that dirty stuff at UFE. They fast-tracked his house, his new house. They helped sell his property, and then he went to a developer. I'm going to tell you this, Ross. I want you to hear this. This is what a great mayor will do. I warned Ron Funk of the verse. Finish the building or not finish the building. It's done in the name of organized crime, just as meth labs are. I will take the building from you. Finish the building or finish not the building. The sympathy is, if we get the foundation up, the government's a more leniency that we got the building, you can't tell it. We're going to come after them assets. We're going to come after them buildings, and we're going to take them back, and we're going to put all these resources and money into Abbotsford's taxpayers. And we're going to lower your taxes. And we're going to get them taxes off of this organized crime ring that was in Abbotsford. Henry Brown should have been processed and charged and went to jail. You could see by all my videos I'm doing how powerful Henry is, controlling everybody, because nobody turned on him. The only man that stood in Henry Brown's way was Bruce Bamman, and he used the chicken manure and people within the city that he controlled to scandal him. Then he tried to own Mo, just the same as Greg Toes tried to own me. The Vicky Hopes. It's foregone conclusion, Vicky Hopes. All the shush money, everything was paid to you to cover that up, because newspaper reporters would be all over it. Ross Siemens, Henry ain't going to save you. This is a full-out tilt to bring the RCMP in for books, audits, and everything. Abbotsford residents were being blocked, and ideas of Abbotsford residents and their hard-earned money to put projects forward and go, Henry was stealing them when you came into the city and blocking them, then going to the province, just like he did with Pram, and stealing these ideas. So come down to Tracy Road. You can see in the corner right there of the building, see Dave Sidhu's signs are still there. All Abbotsford First signs are there. Ross Siemens' signs are still left on this old property. I'm live on Tracy Road.